Hello everyone and welcome to day 58 of my 100-day project. I am working in acrylic for just a couple more days and I had no idea what I was going to paint today. I came upstairs, I've been teaching all day, and then I sat in on a workshop, and then I had a meeting, and I had another meeting. I had a really busy day and I was really tired and I did not feel like painting today. But I know it's important for me to show up and just do something. And, I was like, yeah, whatever. If I just come up and put two eyes in the middle of some flowers, I'm done. Like that was sort of where my head was. And it's so wonderful. Like you never know where inspiration is going to strike you. My husband picked up some tulips for me at the market this weekend, and I was noticing how they're sitting in the vase that they're in, and they're all sort of just leaning on one side, and tulips tend to be really floppy. They don't stand up straight, and I love that about them. And I thought, wouldn't it be kind of fun if I just did like a face with these tulips growing out of her head? So that was what I was thinking about. And then I looked down at my palette and I got inspired by a color. And it's one of the first colors that you see. So I used five colors today. You wouldn't believe it looking at this palette. But I used primarily a color called Mint, which is that light green color in her hair / leaves. It's by Lukas Cryl Studio. So it's a pre-mixed color. It's called Mint. And then I used Payne's Gray. That's the dark. Yellow, the Azo Yellow medium. So those are Nova colors. And then I have a bit of a pop of color towards the end. But and titanium white. So all along this way, I'm just doing super simple. I'm just kind of thinking about shapes and values. I'm not trying to be perfect. Her head's tilted a little bit. I'm debating, do I leave her eyes closed? Do I leave them open? I'm just kind of doing some shading, having fun. I'm not really thinking too much about a light source and doing dramatic lighting. I'm just sort of painting, not really thinking at all, honestly. And I decided to go ahead and give her some eyeballs. So her eyes are opened, and adding in her mouth. So I'm just using a really light wash of Payne's Gray for all of this. My highlights and lighter color, a little bit of that mint mixed with Payne's Gray and a little bit of the yellow. So very simple, giving her some ears so she can hear. Really loose structures. And then I thought, okay, the flowers in her hair have dried, so let me go back and add a little bit of highlight. So I'm adding in a little bit of that yellow for highlight, no white in the flowers at all. And that hair color, the leaf color, is that mint color, just straight, with a little bit of a dirty brush. So I usually don't clean my brush very much. And that kind of helps harmonize my colors because there's just a little bit of that color, other colors in there. So I'm adding a little bit of white mixed with some of that mint color and a little bit of yellow to give her some lighter highlights on her face. And I'm starting to add in her irises. And I'm trying to decide what color. I'm really only using 3 colors at this point. The Payne's Gray, that mint color, and the yellow and white. So I'm trying to figure out, how do I add some contrast into her eyes? And I'm just kind of sitting with it for a minute. And I went back and forth on the background. I didn't really want to introduce another color because I'm tired and I don't want to have to go layer in that color in all the other places. So I wanted to do kind of a little bit of Rembrandt lighting where it's dark on one side and light on the other, but I don't have a super strong shadow side on her face and light side. So I thought, well, maybe I'll do light at the top where the flowers are and then dark at the bottom. But I wasn't really loving that. So I'm just kind of trying different things and seeing what I like. And I end up going back and making the background a little bit lighter. But the great news about that is all of those colors that I layered underneath are still there. And that'll come into play here in a minute. So I'm adding the highlights in her eyes. They were a little bit bigger than they needed to be. I'm using this number 10 brush, which is kind of a big brush for this size painting. But I like to use the bigger brush. So here I'm going in and I'm layering some kind of thick white over that other color. And I'm kind of thinking, okay, well, I've got some thick paint on now. Let me do some interesting shapes with my brush strokes. So I kind of did some sort of swirly-ish, curvy brushstroke shapes in there. And as I'm doing that, I decided it's just not enough contrast. So I decide to bring in some orange, and this is the organic orange. And I just wanted to just give her some little pops of color. And that orange is going to contrast off that yellowy green and the blues really beautifully. So I've used that as the color of her irises. And then I've taken a little bit of thinned out Payne's Gray to give some shadow to the inside of her eye. And I've added a little bit of that orangey color into the flowers. And I'll come in here in a second and just give just some little light touches in her skin and in her cheeks, just to harmonize things a little bit and to warm things up. So I scratched into the background to give it some interest. And I love it. I love the simplicity. I love the looseness. I really love my paintings more when I keep them simple. Big brushes, very few colors, big marks, not a lot of detail. And here she is, this kind of garden sprite, nymph, tender, one of the garden tenders. So that is day, 50, 58? 2 more days of acrylic, and then we are on to oil stick, which is basically oil paint in a stick form. Super excited about that. I'm going to be playing with R&F drawing oils. So please come back, join me, take care of you. I hope you're doing well, and thanks again. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.